The white savior trope. A critique of narratives defined by a member of a dominant group acting as a savior for the members of a marginalized group. A critique of narratives that assign little agency to marginalized people and view them as helpless and powerless, saved only by the noble actions of a hero from the dominant group. The idea of a white savior does possess some value as a way of judging and analyzing media. That is true. The term has also been applied to famous white people involved in charity in Africa. It is true that we should criticize the mistaken emphasis on the charity of individuals over the systemic adjustments that provide long-term solutions to injustice and inequality. Charity is good, but systemic solutions are better because they provide long-lasting, substantial solutions that charity cannot provide. So the concept of a white savior has some value as a criticism. But it can also be dangerous, particularly when it is applied to things that exist beyond the realm of fictional media. The white savior trope can become dangerous when it is assigned to real-life activism and advocacy. The term white savior has taken on a life of its own as a way of thinking about and criticizing advocates of marginalized people who belong to dominant groups. White opponents of racism, male feminists, straight supporters of gay rights. The term white savior has taken on a new life as a disparaging term for these people. A disparaging term for those who belong to dominant groups and become too heavily involved in the struggles of marginalized peoples. It is this variant of the term that I despise and detest. It exists only to encourage inaction. It exists only to disguise apathy as virtue. It makes indifference appear righteous. This idea that advocating the interests of marginalized people while belonging to a dominant group makes you worthy of criticism as a white savior. It is simply an attempt at disguising apathy and inaction as progressive virtue. People should oppose injustice and immorality regardless of their own group identity. Those who belong to dominant groups should support the interests of marginalized people. The support of those who possess disproportionate power is essential if progress is ever to be achieved. The gay rights movement would have achieved little, if anything, without the support of sympathetic straight people. The civil rights movement would have achieved little, if anything, without the support of sympathetic white people. The feminist movement would have achieved little, if anything, without the support of sympathetic men. By definition, marginalized people are largely powerless. Leave them to fight their own struggles, and you condemn them to a prolonged existence in an unjust and immoral social order. Progress must be pushed by everyone, regardless of their identity. When the term white savior is applied to activists who belong to dominant social groups, it serves only to discourage members of dominant groups from supporting the interests of marginalized people. This is hugely destructive and serves only to prolong injustice. The term white savior serves to disguise apathy, inaction, and indifference as progressive virtue. And in doing so, it stifles the will to progress. This criticism also occasionally applies to the use of the term white knight. We should not be discouraging members of dominant groups from promoting the interests of marginalized people. That is a very stupid political move. It hinders progress immensely by depriving it of the support of those who wield disproportionate power. We should encourage those who possess disproportionate power to use it to aid the marginalized. The use of the term white savior has often become a threat to this noble pursuit. They say it is empowering to let marginalized people fight their own struggles. Such sentiments serve only to preserve injustice for longer. There is no virtue in inaction and indifference. There is no virtue in apathy and amorality. There is virtue in advocating for the interests of the marginalized and the downtrodden.